Hello everyone, my name is Emily, and today you're in for another sketchbook story time. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about my ex-girlfriend and our very passionate but also very turbulent relationship and the very unfortunate way that it ended, i.e. me being an absolute dick. I was a terrible person. I fully recognize that the way we ended things was 100% completely backwards, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I'm gonna call my ex Miki because that is actually the nickname I gave her when we were together. She hailed from the Greek island of Mykonos. Fun fact, I've actually dated two separate people from Greece in my lifetime, and all I can say is y'all know how to party. Y'all know how to throw down. Y'all don't mess around with food. Y'all don't mess around with alcohol. Y'all don't mess around with music and dancing. I just nuts. I say ain't no party like a Grecian people party, cause a Grecian people party don't stop, eh? And like Miki's family would party until like 4 a.m. I would be calling it a night at 1, like, honey, I gotta go home. Like, I'm beat. But Miki's mommy and daddy were always like, no, please stay. We just made fresh spanakopera. Please come and stay. They were just, oh my God, they were the nicest people and I miss them so much. Can you guys be my mommy and daddy? But I always felt incredibly welcome in their home, and we always had a really good time, and it was always about family. The only thing that they were really strict about was too much PDA in front of the other family members, because not all of her family was, well, they weren't down for the donuts hanging out and bumping fronts, which was really understandable, but it's kind of difficult when the alcohol is flowing and you just want to reach over and hold your partner's hand or kiss them or hug them. But you know, it sometimes really killed the vibe when we were having a good time and we'd forget about who we were in the presence of, and we'd reach over and try to hold each other's hands, and we both go like, oh, the donuts, don't forget the donuts. They don't like the donuts. They're not down with the gay. But I was just very, very grateful that Miki's parents were down with the gay, and were really cool about it. Her dad, much less so than her mom. I don't think her dad really understood it, but he loved his daughter enough that he's like, man, whatever. My daughter likes donuts. I can't be mad at her. I like donuts too. If you don't understand that donuts is a euphemism for something right now, you're probably not old enough to be watching my video. But yeah, her parents were great. The time we spent with her parents was great, but I was probably not a good influence on her. More than a probably, that is a definitely. This was a point in my life where I wasn't completely 100% down the really, really, really dark rabbit hole, but I was kind of circling the surface, just like, what's down there? But I wasn't a total junkie lost cause yet, I promise. I was still just an edgy, late teenaged girl. But regardless, I still made some pretty bad decisions, and those bad decisions usually involved me dragging Miki along, which I want to... I hate my past self. Miki was beautiful and smart and cunning and poured her heart into everything she did and worked her butt off, and she was so involved with family and her church, and I just jumped into that world and said, wouldn't it be fun to turn this inside out? I think the biggest benefit she could have ever received from our relationship was learning how to be more sarcastic, and I don't know if that's the greatest, takeaway. It could also be don't trust no bitch, which again probably isn't the greatest thing to say about any relationship. Like, oh, what did you learn? I learned how to be sarcastic. Yeah, that's it. But as turbulent as our relationship could be, we had a lot of wacky adventures and crazy fun times, and I look back on all of that very fondly. Miki and I have a very neutral relationship right now. I didn't mention to her that I was going to make this video, but I am absolutely certain that I will be sending it to her when it is finished. I'm pretty sure she'll appreciate my candor. I met Miki through my friend, we're gonna call him Doug, because that's all I could think of, through my friend Doug. His other friend, let's call him Jason, was Miki's boyfriend at the time. And I heard all the time from Doug how their relationship was totally turbulent because she wasn't all in it, and Jason was very butthurt about all of that, but he didn't want to let her go, and Miki was like, I think we should break up, but Jason was just really determined to keep Miki in the relationship with him, so I heard about all the drams, all the tea from Doug. By the way, if any straight guy ever tells you he doesn't like drama, drama. He's a liar. They like drama literally more than anyone ever. They guzzle it like plain 1% milk. Feed me the drama. Whenever all four of us would hang out, Miki and I would always go into the other room, and, you know, we always just really got along. We always clicked. We always made each other laugh. And it wasn't just like me making her laugh. She made me bust my gut sometimes. She was so witty and funny. Eventually, she confided in me that she just did not want to be with Jason anymore, and she was officially going to put her foot down and break up with him, and that would be it. She would not feel bad and take him back anymore. And I was like, kick his ass! Draw a line in the sand respectfully and calmly. Name your points one by one, and then close the chapter. Break his legs off. Your feelings are valid, and he has absolutely no right to make you feel guilty to force you to stay in that relationship. Sink the ship to the bottom of the ocean. I'm sure if you're firm and kind but honest with him, everything will run very smoothly. I want to see blood raining down from the heavens. So she broke it off with Jason. It didn't really go as planned, but what breakups do, and her and I stayed in touch for about a month after that, and we got pretty close. Now keep in mind, I don't think there was really, at least for me, not a spark right away. It took that kind of month after her breaking up with Jason and really getting close with her and learning more about her. That's when it really just kind of hit me. Like, oh, I caught the feelings. And eventually we became an item. However, we were an open item. Not by my choice, not at all, but I think Miki just didn't want to be held down like she was with Jason, and she just kind of wanted a little bit more freedom, which I totally understood. But I want to make myself perfectly clear, I don't like open relationships for me. I don't have a problem if somebody else has an open relationship. That's completely fine, but they have never ever worked for me, and by they, I mean the one time I had an open relationship and I drove myself crazy with jealousy. I don't know how I feel about the new bit, the bit. Yeah. No, I think it's funny. It just, I don't know if I like it. I'm sure you guys can see where this is going by now, but we will get back to the jealousy thing later in the story. I promise you, we will get back to it. Please don't preemptively hate me. I promise everything is not as it seems with the jealousy aspect of this whole thing. I remember one time Miki and I were doing some late night exploring, and there were these two buildings in my hometown, and they were big office buildings attached to a parking garage where all the local kids hung out, and if you got in the elevator, there were 2 floors missing, and they were government floors, I believe, now looking back. But everybody, of course, was like, oh my god, that's where they study the aliens, because that makes so much sense to study aliens on the 8th floor of this office building that contains financial advisors and the local newspaper on other floors. Like, that just I just imagine somebody like have a body bag like filled with alien carcasses, I'm assuming, and they're like moving it around, and it's making like this sound in the elevator. Nothing to see here. Just some mail. Just some wet mail. Just some wet, unidentifiable mail in the shape of tiny carcasses. How do normal people act? Because man, am I normal today. But you know, local kids talk, and I guess that was the consensus that they came to, even though we had an actual government building that no one was allowed access to in our city, and if you took the expressway over said building, it had like this giant basin filled with water, and I feel like that is infinitely more interesting than, 2 missing floors on an elevator. Ooh, like, why did nobody care about the basin? One night, Miki and I were hanging out in the aforementioned parking garage that was adjacent/attached to the 2 buildings, and we were like, how do we get to these 2 floors to find the aliens? We figured there had to be a way to get to those 2 floors. Keep in mind, this office building was open, quote unquote open. It was lit at least 24/7. I never tried to go in the front door at all hours of the night, but you could access it through the parking garage elevator at all hours of the night. You know how we got onto the blank floor? We went 1 floor beneath the first blank floor and then took the stairs the rest of the way. We did speculate that the elevator, of course, had to go to these floors, but there were like 2 keyholes and then 2 other buttons on the elevator, and if you push the other buttons, they didn't do anything, they weren't labeled. so I'm wondering if those were for each of those floors. Regardless, it was very comical how easy it was to gain access to those blank floors. And surprise, surprise, we did not find any aliens, just a bunch of cubicles and offices. But it was dark, and we were alone, and we had this amazing view of the entire city and beyond, and we were late teenagers and mischievous, and we thought breaking and entering was the funnest thing. Hooray for violating federal laws! We're young and we're never gonna die! We were really enjoying our romantic felonious love romp when all of a sudden a deep, very intimidating hey shattered the mood. I guess our dumbasses didn't take 2 seconds to think that maybe possibly a building filled with offices and potentially government workers would be filled with security cameras as well. So the security guard, who admittedly wasn't very big but was very intimidating looking, was like charging at us and like, what the f are you kids doing here? And I'm gonna call the cops and you're coming with me. And of course, Miki and I are just both like, pfft. And I don't mean we were blowing raspberries at him. I mean like we were shitting our pants. We were making Jackson Pollock paintings with our butts. The security guard took us down into the lobby, pretty much cussing the entire way. Like I said, he wasn't very big, but he was definitely intimidating, and he was like really pissed. And I think he was maybe more pissed at himself that he didn't realize 2 teenage girls had snuck into like government floors of this important building. But I guess being a security guard worked for this guy because he definitely intimidated us. Once he got off the phone with 911, he basically said, all right, the cops are on their way and they're gonna call your parents to come pick you up. And that's when we got really, really, really panicked. Nobody's parents wants that call at 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody's parents. Why did I do? Words are flowing out. I leaned over and I whispered to Miki, let's just run. The doors are right there. The worst that could happen is that they're locked and we can't get out. The police are already coming. How much more trouble could we possibly get in? I'll answer that for my past self. A lot! And of course, Miki was like, I don't know. They already know what we look like. Like, what if the police end up finding us anyway? They've got us on camera. All logical, very smart things to think of in that moment. And I'm just like, it's either we have a police record or both our parents know we were up to no good, and then that might be worse. I also mentioned that if our parents found out we were doing this together, they might not let us see each other anymore. And you know, we were adults technically, but we still lived under our parents' roof, and they still expected to know where we were. And if we broke their trust like that, I mean, bad things would ensue. And Miki, being the freedom bird that she was like, all right, that sells it. Let's go. And I was like, okay, on the count of 3. And like, remember that Jackson Pollock painting happening that was going on before? It was really going on now. We were creating art. So I started to count 1, 2, 3. And we made a break for it. Of course, I opened the door and I literally hold it open for her like a gentleman so she can go and then I go. Even in a panic, I was still thinking about being polite and being a good girlfriend. That really says something about my character. Ignore the breaking and entering part. We sprinted back to my house. With a casual gait, you could probably get there in 15 to 20 minutes, but the way we were going, I think we got back to my house in less than 5. The thing that kind of sucked was that my dad and her parents both thought we were spending the night at our friend's dorm, which was technically true. We were gonna end up there eventually, but we were so spooked, we just ended up running right back to my house. So what we ended up doing was, I'm sure nobody's shocked, go in the back and climb in through the window to hang out in my room for the rest of the night. My dad did let me have my partner stay over occasionally after I turned 18, so it wasn't a big deal when in the morning both Miki and I came out of my bedroom. I was a little bit concerned with what kind of questions he was going to ask, but he ended up just being like, oh, I didn't even hear you guys come in last night. I thought you were gonna spend the night in so-and-so's. And I was like, oh yeah, but plans changed and we ended up back here. And he was like, oh, okay. Miki was absolutely terrified to go back home. She was like just certain that there was gonna be a gaggle of cop cars waiting to just throw her in the slammer. So we hung out at my house for a little bit, took my dogs for a walk, and then I decided to take her home. When we entered her neighborhood, there was a cop car that ended up in front of us, and she was legitimately shaking and so nervous, and I'm just like, oh, Miki, don't worry, it's just a coincidence. And then he turns on her street. If there was ever a time in my real life that I needed the dark realization sound effect, it was then. I started to get nervous, my palms were sweaty, mom spaghetti, and it felt like I was shaking, but I know I wasn't, and it felt like the color was dripping from my face, all while I'm still trying to like comfort Miki, and I'm like, you're not going to go to jail, I will tell the cop that it is all my fault. And then I thought of everything, and if you do end up going to jail, don't worry girl, like I'm going with you, I'm not letting you go alone. And we're expecting this cop to slow down and stop in front of her house, but he keeps going. He goes right on through. He uses her street to cut over onto a more busy street, and both Miki and I are just like, holy shit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the first time I saw a soul successfully leave and re-enter somebody's body. I look back on this memory with such fondness, but that does not mean, and I'm sure I've annotated this all over the video already, I do not condone any of the actions that I have done in the past, especially breaking and entering, especially running away from the police or before the police got there. I was stupid, I was young, I made mistakes. It's a really great story, but it's also a really great lesson. And the lesson here is don't be stupid. But unfortunately, the good times with Miki could not last forever. But I will get into all of that in part 2. I am so sorry. You've supported me this whole time, and this is how I repay you. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one, and don't forget to stay out of trouble. See you guys later. This video was brought to you by viewers like you. If you'd like to support the channel, please go to www.patreon.com/EmilyArtful. Thanks again for watching.